Hey guys, just want to real quick show you 3 classic Honda mowers that I've picked up over the years. I think these are great mowers. If anyone's looking to get into older Hondas, these are probably some of the best for different reasons and different purposes, and I'll run through them. So this first one is a HR17. This is a 17-inch cut, so it's pretty small. And it's got a unique handle design, kind of similar to the steels you see that are being sold now. But this one's from the early 80s, so they did it first. This is a really cool mower. It's very quiet, actually. Muffler goes underneath the deck and over, up like that. And I'll show you under the deck a little bit, if it's even possible to see. Probably not. But yeah, 17-inch cut. So this would be great for trimming if you have a riding mower, or if you have a really small townhouse yard, or small something property. This is a blade clutch model. They're all, at least in the US, they all had blade clutches. I'm not sure about anywhere else. They didn't have the yellow safety button where you push down. You can just squeeze it and the blade is engaged. So a little bit of safety, but not 100% there yet. As far as I know, this is a bagging only. I don't know of any mulch plug or anything that would go with this. It's been hard for me to find a good use for it, since yard is pretty decent size. I would say it's about the maximum for a push or self-propel mower, where you're just on the verge of needing a riding mower. And it's got a really, even though it's small, it's got a pretty decently depth bag. It's not wide, of course, but it's got some depth to it, so it can fit quite a bit of grass in there. The pull handle goes straight through the handle, actually, through here, and then that's where the recoil mechanism is. There is no throttle. It is an on-off switch. On is in the middle, and then off is either side. I assume, if it's an emergency, you need to flip it off anywhere. That's why they did that, maybe, but who knows. Honda's pretty quirky in their design sometimes. So you got your height adjusters. They got 4 independent. Has a side guard. You usually only see that in like commercial mowers nowadays. So we'll move on to this one. This is also pretty unique looking. This is a HRS21. This is my second HRS21 that I've had. The first HRS21 I had, I bought from a guy for like 20 bucks, and it was all in pieces. And I asked him what was wrong with it, and he said, well, I don't know, but it's not the carburetor. So I was pretty optimistic. I took it home, pieced it all together as best as I could, because I didn't have one of these before, so I just kind of figured it out as I went. And I went to pull it over, and it was seized. That's the first thing I should have checked. The connecting rod actually exploded, and I found another one, which was a push mower, and I had to use the connecting rod from that. I couldn't use the whole engine, because that one was a push mower, and the one I have, along with this one here in front of you, is a self-propel, and the casting for them is different for the crankcase, because it has a shaft going into it. So I did that. I actually had to sand down the crankshaft, because there's some casting marked on the crankshaft. So I actually had to sand it down, which is a horrible idea. But again, this was a while ago, so I didn't know what I was doing. And it actually worked, and the mower actually ran pretty well. And it was, even though there was aluminum shavings in the oil, it ran and it cut, and it was a good mower for a bit, and I used it. But I just had to give it away, because I couldn't sell it because of how I repaired it. This one, however, is all good. No issues. I didn't have to do anything to it besides I had to fix the handle at this point here. they seem to get bent outwards. I don't know how someone could do that, but I had to shape it back to a C shape to fit on there. And I might source another one later on, who knows. So another really unique thing about these HRS21s is the engine. The engine's actually upside down. So what I mean by that is the flywheel is actually underneath. So that is the flywheel, and also, like, you know, the cooling fan obviously or something, there's fins going into it. The blade is upside down, ignore that, because I just got this recently and I haven't had the chance to really fix it. I haven't even mowed with this thing yet. But yeah, so that's why there's really no, like, you'll see on other mowers, you'll see openings and, you know, the air will go into it, I guess. This one doesn't. It's just plastic right there because it's coming from the bottom as far as I can tell. Then the magneto is actually right there underneath this plastic part, and the recoil is right here. So it's kind of a side shaft recoil. It's pretty useful if you have a normal yard. I usually use a 21-inch mower. And then this one specifically is self-propel. This one's self-propel, it's leaking a little gas. Interesting. This one is self-propel. Yeah, it's got a shaft. I would take this off and show you, but just take my word for it. There's a shaft going into a transmission, and it's only one speed. So there's no selectable speed, just one. And it's pretty slow. It's like if you had an HR214 or 215 with the 2 or 3 speed, it would be like if you're mowing on speed number 1, if I could compare it. Another unique thing about this, and I feel like a lot of mowers of this era kind of had something like this, is a side bag. So the bag actually just attaches on the side here instead of like back here or being bigger. It just kind of hangs on the side of the handle, which I always thought was cool and unique. I think that's pretty cool. Here's your throttle and choke right here. Nothing to write home about. This is a zone start, so there's no blade clutch. You got your zone start, and then you got your self-propel like Honda usually does, like right there. Also a pretty unique handle as well as this one. But yeah, also a very cool mower, and it's also pretty quiet as well. I read on some forums that the flywheel being on the bottom helps it being quiet somehow. I'm not really sure. I don't engineer small engines, so I don't know the difference. I mean, this one's pretty quiet and the flywheel is not upside down. So I think it's just a mix of muffler engineering and whatnot. But then we get to my favorite personally, and probably one of the most commons that you'll see, is the HR215. I did have before, but I got rid of it, is the HR214, which is the predecessor to this. I like the HR215 personally because you can get them with the hydrostatic transmission, and that is one of my favorite transmissions for a few different reasons, and I'll get into that. But a rundown of the HR215, you got the Honda, I forgot what type of engine this is. It is like the GXV140. So that's what this engine is, and that's quite a common engine. It's also a great engine, in my opinion. These mowers it's 21-inch. It's shaft driven, and it does have a blade clutch. Now this blade clutch is the more traditional Honda you'll see for many, many years, up until they stopped making gasoline mowers, unfortunately. Is you got your yellow, like step 1, step 2, blade control. So you have to press this down in order to be able to engage the blade. You know, if you just do this, it won't catch, because if you push this down, it's actually catching on something and pulling the cable. So that's what that is, and I think that's a good safety step. And then one amazing thing about the hydrostatic is you can kind of on the go select your own speed as if it were a belt drive. So if you imagine a belt drive slipping on the pulley, like when you go to engage it, it'll slip a little bit and it'll just go slowly. This does that without wearing anything out. It's supposed to do that. So you can have the speed on whatever you want, and you can just press it in a little bit and it'll creep. And then if you press it in on the way, it'll go to the maximum speed in which you have selected here. Obviously you have like a bunch of different selections too, and you can actually change it on the fly. But even if you have this pressed down, you can change it on the fly. And that's pretty cool. And then you just have your standard choke throttle off. But man, these things are awesome. I really like the HR215 mower. This one mulches incredibly well. It's got like a dual blade. That's, I think, part of the reason why it mulches pretty well, but also has the mulch plug. So you can have mulch plugs for these things. This one happened to fall into the bag. Stick it in like that. And then you should have this closed, because if you have the bag behind it, it'll just shoot it out into the bag. But man, this thing mulches pretty well. I mean, so long as the grass isn't super high, you know, just like any other mower, if it's super high, you should bag it. You're gonna get clumps of grass kind of, but in a normal scenario in which it's good to mulch and the grass is not wet, it mulches very well. Doesn't leave anything behind. And it also bags very well too. So, yeah. This particular one I repainted a little bit, so it looks a little better than it did. There was just some paint flaking around here. I didn't do the best job masking off this decal, which sucks, but I can't find reproduction decals, so that's just the best that I could do. And if you're curious on what paint I used, and I think this goes for all of these actually, these 80s Hondas. It's actually a Honda power equipment part. It's called Gently Silver, and that's the part number if you can see it. It laid on very well. Actually, it's a really good paint. You know, leave it up to Honda to make the best at everything, like the best power equipment, the best paint. But it's a little bit more metallic than the original. Like the original was a little bit more flat. Maybe it's just more worn out, I don't know, but it was a little bit more metallic, and then I put a clear coat over it as well. So, yeah. So I will start these up for you and just engage the blade and self-propel and show you how that works. But they're pretty straightforward. I pulled the HR215 back here because there's something I forgot to mention. I just kind of realized that this is probably one of the first Hondas that they made where you could actually side discharge. So I don't have that, but you could actually get a chute where it side discharges, or even a plate where it mulches. And I'll insert a picture if I have one that demonstrates that. And then of course the bagging, as I showed before.